Hi, this is Omni Bharti, and we are at the Cloud Foundry Summit in Den Haag, Netherlands. Today we have with us Cloud Foundry's community manager, Swarna Podila. Last time when we met, you recently joined the foundation, and now it's like more than 2 years now, so you're almost a veteran now.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yes, I've been here almost 2 years now.
So tell us a bit about what has been your experience so far at the foundation.
It has been phenomenal. It has been a really adventurous ride, I want to say, because for me, this is the first role that I have in an open source community, like as part of the foundation, and also as a community manager. So for me, it was a completely different shift in my career. But it has been fascinating. I think it's definitely a phenomenal time to be here in the Cloud Foundry space. And also just working with everybody here in the community who are really kind, who put their employer hat second because they are here to represent the community and also to work with as a community. Like you saw Bernd receive the foundation award. That's because people like Bernd bring the competitors together because they want to collaborate and work on a piece of technology or work on the interoperability of technologies together rather than work in their own siloed organizations and then kind of compete with each other. So Cloud Foundry community definitely embodies the philosophy or the principles of open source truly, and I've been really enjoying it for the past 2 years.
Since we talked last time, a lot of things have changed. A lot of, the industry dynamics have changed with the VMware's acquisition of Heptio and Pivotal. So the kind of community is also growing. It's kind of changing. So can you talk about the evolution of the community itself with the technology from your perspective?
I mean, it's a natural evolution, right? I think more than how is it changing, it's more about how is it evolving, right?
Okay.
When I joined about 2 years ago, we were still pretty kind of getting early on in the discussions of integrating with other open source communities. And Chip always talks about building bridges, right? We have always been building bridges, but these specific bridges that we're building with communities like Istio or Kubernetes had just begun. And over the 2 years, I saw that it has evolved significantly and also pretty quickly because it's not just that the members in the community feel like that is the right thing, that is the right step to do, or that is the right pace to do, but also the end users have provided feedback that we are also looking at these other technologies. How can the community help us? So it's like a constant conversation between both the folks that consume the technology and also folks that build the technology, and kind of it's a natural evolution towards all of these things. Now the company consolidation or the technology consolidation, it is also natural in the technology life cycle. So VMware's move, I think it's, at least from my personal opinion, it probably is going to be significantly exciting because no one makes a bet like that, a significant bet for just buying and killing something. So I feel like, and even Craig was on stage yesterday, and it was all about providing the developer experience, which is what Cloud Foundry does and which is what Cloud Foundry has always been good at. So bringing that whole CF push experience to the either Kubernetes ecosystem or to the broader VMware customer base, I think is the objective. And you also saw the demo this morning from our friends at IBM. Deploying Cloud Foundry on,
that would have nobody
who would have imagined,
yes.
Right? Like 12 months ago, if you had said that we'll be having that keynote demo today, no one would have believed it. So today, just seeing not just Cloud Foundry plus Kubernetes on a slide, but also in an actual product demo, Kubernetes plus OpenShift has been a significant, I think it has been a great accomplishment for technology industry in general, but also as a Cloud Foundry community. That's what we have always been focused on, naturally evolving as the market goes forward, as the market evolves, not really resisting change, but embracing change, not just for the sake of it, but because truly our end users will benefit from it.
You have talked about the evolution of the community and the technology. I'm also curious about how you have evolved in your role as the community and technology is evolving. Can you talk about that a bit?
Well, as a person, I have to tell you, these 2 years have made me a better human being because we absorb, right? We are all like sponges. We absorb what we have around us. And if we are in muddy waters, obviously we absorb all the dirt and kind of make ourselves heavier and murkier. But the Cloud Foundry community, every single human being that I've worked with here, has been a phenomenal human being. Like they're genuinely interested in helping you learn. They're genuinely focused on helping each other. Kind of like goes back to the saying, rising tide lifts all boats. So it's kind of like every individual is genuinely interested, motivated, and inspired to help each other. There is no such thing as not even a stupid question, but for folks in the community, there's no such thing as a basic question, because when you ask a question, you never know how that question is going to lead the conversation. Even a simple question can kind of morph into a really engaged conversation across members, and that might lead into something brand new, which is how Irene Project, from what I've heard of, has come into existence, right? Even a simple question, single question, can strike that kind of conversation that can lead to some really big and phenomenal changes. And as a human being, I think that is really important to understand that we have 2 years for a reason. We have to listen twice as intently. Not just from a collaboration perspective, but also understanding where that other person comes from. Mm-hmm. Like having that empathy, and not just empathy as in, yes, I understand how you feel, but truly showing in our actions how the other person feels, where the other person's coming from, why they're saying what they're saying, so that then we can formulate why we have to do what we have to do, or how we have to collaborate and move towards the right direction. So as a human being, I've learned a lot in these 2 years, and I have to say that personally, I feel very content, and I'm really proud of being in the community. I never imagined that I'd be this content and happy 2 years ago, but yes.
And you, what you're talking about, and you're just coming from a diversity luncheon also.
God, yeah.
So which is a topic, closer to what you were just talking about. I have a couple of questions. Number one is, why does diversity matter? I mean, I ask everybody the same question. The answer is same, but I like to repeat the message, because the more you repeat the message, the most people hear. Number two is that how important is it for Cloud Foundry?
I want to say the simple answer for the second question is yes, it is very important, but I'll tell you why it is important by answering the first question. Diversity is important for a lot of many reasons, but I'll kind of explain how and why it should be important. Representation matters, right? When you take a look at, let's say, a piece of technology, let's say iPhone, for example, the way I use an iPhone is significantly different from the way someone else is using an iPhone. Like, I'll give you another example. The way my mom would use an iPhone. I don't have vision issues. I don't have audio issues. So I don't rely on the on-screen readers or magnification of the text on my phone. But when my mom, for example, who has vision issues, looks at her phone, she needs text that can zoom in or make text bigger quickly. She should not go through like 4 different steps in a menu settings to get to her, to use her phone. So when you look at this kind of open source technology, or any technology, for example, that kind of representation matters. When you're only asking a very similar set of people for product feedback, you will hear only a certain set. But when you ask product feedback, or when you ask for product feedback from people that come from different backgrounds or different abilities, different skill sets, different experiences, your product feedback will be significantly different. And that's how we can make it better, because when you build a product, or when you make a product easier to use for everyone, especially for people with different abilities, you make it easier for everybody. And coming from the diversity luncheon was a significant shift for me in particular, because the topics that are discussed there are very meaningful and very impactful. And that is how we kind of show as a community and as a foundation, that is how we show that it is important for us, because it is not just about bringing all the people together, but it is about talking about it, normalizing that it is okay to say that I'm not okay. It is perfectly okay to say that I don't feel comfortable here, or I don't feel safe here. And having those kind of discussions, the diversity discussions, the inclusivity discussions, the equality and the equity discussions, makes it normal for everybody in the community to understand that. And you saw the numbers also that Abby shared. A fourth of our speakers here are not men. And that is a huge accomplishment personally for the Cloud Foundry Foundation. But I also think that as an industry standard, I think it is definitely a great number. And I mean, we're not done here yet. We have still a long way to go, but we have come really long way as well.
When you were talking about the experience with your mom, I was interviewing the executive director of the National Federation of the Blind. So when we're talking basically, how audio-based, interface makes. So he was like, the accessibility should not be an afterthought. It's like you build a multi-story building, and then you say, hey, if you put an elevator, it would be better. So if you put it so. But his point was that accessibility is something that improves the experience for everybody.
Exactly.
And that's what you were also, pointing
Yep.
that. So, and same is the case with diversity and everything. It's not that you are only catering to that particular person or group.
Yep.
You're actually making it better for everybody.
Exactly. I'll give you two concrete examples from at least this week. Yesterday, you probably were at the keynotes, right? Gina Holden from Pivotal was talking about building accessibility. It's not just accessibility from a front-end perspective, but making the website easy, making the usability aspect, it's great. But we also have to think about the back-end developers, because in our community, we have a lot of developers that are writing code to enable the front-end developers. So if you don't really write the code and make it accessible for future engineers who are coming in and inheriting the project from someone else, it will become extremely hard for them to maintain. So how do you make the code, back-end code, accessible? By writing comments, by making sure that you have the testing procedures all written up. She was also talking about all the other things. So that's how important it is for us as a community to bring accessibility into the forefront of the discussion. As you said, yes, accessibility should never be an afterthought. And that is exactly how we could make things worse for everybody.
Yeah.
Another example I wanted to give you was the diversity scholarships that we have at every event. We had one diversity scholar from our Philly Summit who was so motivated that she wanted to learn Cloud Foundry. She took it on her own. She went through the online documentation that's available on the website. She took the online course, the edX course on basics of Cloud Foundry. And I was just chatting with her a few months ago, and I was like, why don't you submit a speaking proposal on the basics of Cloud Foundry? She was hesitant first, but she was like, you know what, I'm just gonna push myself and still submit it. She presented her Cloud Foundry from a beginner's perspective talk yesterday, and I have to tell you, there were a lot of veteran Cloud Foundry developers who have been with Cloud Foundry from the VMware days, not even the Pivotal days, who went up to her and said, you have articulated and you have explained the concepts so well that I would like to use it in my presentations. Can I use your slides? Or would you like to co-present with me? And for someone that has been relatively new, to hear that from the existing community, it was phenomenal for her. And that is how the community kind of works on that. Now, yes, she went through that kind of learning process for about 2 or 3 months to get there. But to make the documentation easy, to make the online courses easy, was on the communities. It was the community's responsibility to make it easy, to make the educational materials easy, so that even someone who had no idea about what Cloud Foundry is can teach themselves without even having to ask anyone, because they're too shy to ask someone. And she didn't even ask anyone. All she did was, once she built out the slide deck, she just sent out a couple of us and said, does this look okay? And it was just perfect. It was the most perfect presentation that I've ever heard on Cloud Foundry 101. So that's the kind of accessibility discussions we have in our community, where it truly starts with everybody. And you also heard about the announcement where we launched the second version of the CFCD course, the certification exam. The reason we did that was because after we launched the first one 2 years ago, we kind of got feedback from the community, and also some of the folks from our member organization. They also kind of said that, okay, this seems like a really challenging and daunting task to take the certification. Can we make it a little bit not just easier, but also more relevant and more meaningful? So we had to kind of revamp the whole thing, and we released the V2 so that it's more easier for folks that take the exam. Not from we lowered the bar of the quality, but it's more about, are those questions the relevant ones? Are those questions the ones that those people need to take to get certified?
So which also leads me a question that these days a lot of mentorship is going on in a lot of projects, where established developers, they help the next generation. Is anything like that going on within the Cloud Foundry Foundation? No, you did mention the documentation is great and the community itself solved the problem, but do you run any such program, or do you have any pipeline in mind that, hey, we should do something like that?
So we don't have an official program per se. It does happen all the time in the community. But we are, like Cloud Foundry Foundation is working with the Linux Foundation. So LF recently announced the Community Bridge program. So I'm working on the back end, like with the product team, to bring it to a place where we can have an easier portal for the mentors to sign up and the mentees to sign up, and for us to kind of match the mentors and mentees. So I have a bunch of mentors that have signed up already. I have a bunch of folks that have expressed to be mentees, but now I need to work with the product team to kind of figure out how I can map those two together, those two groups together, connect the individuals from this side and onto this side. So it's in progress, but yes, we are working together to have a formal mentorship program.
Okay.
Even folks that come to diversity scholarship program, they usually get mapped to certain individuals when they are here. Like, for example, one of the diversity scholars from our Basel Summit last year, Rohit, he was an intern at SUSE, and now he's a full-time employee at SUSE.
Oh, wow.
He works on Project Quarks, which is another one of those newer interoperable projects that bring the value of BOSH to Kubernetes ecosystem. So it's fascinating to see that, as I said, it kind of happens that mentorship and the internship and eventual absorption into the community happens naturally in the community. But we as a foundation are working on providing official or formal means to make that happen as well.
Yeah, and the second thing is that, okay, when people come to the Cloud Foundry Summit, they all gather. You also have like local events where local communities can also come together or work together, or?
Yeah, we have meetups that our existing member organizations host. They happen. I think we have something like 70,000 members on the online meetups that happen. I mean, on the global meetups that happen, either online or in the regional places. We also have something called Cloud Foundry Days that our members periodically organize. It's a day-long event. It's a free event, so it's open for anyone to join. They just ask you to register online. There is no money involved. Folks from SAP, Pivotal, IBM have hosted Cloud Foundry Days in the past. We're also working on co-located events. So we co-located Cloud Foundry Day at a few KubeCons in the past. I think we're also working with CNCF to co-host or co-organize the Serverless Practitioner Summit in a KubeCon. We have online webinars and meetups as well. Pivotal, SAP, and even folks like Any9s and Novatech, they host a lot of events as well. Like Engineer Better partners with Pivotal to host DevOps Days London, and also Cloud Native London. And Novatech hosts a bunch of meetups in partnership with Any9s to kind of foster that community in their regions. So yeah, there are a lot of events that happen outside of Summit. And of course, there are a lot of events that happen online. I think Chip also gave a list this morning with a calendar of events like online. The project meetings happen regularly. There are virtual office hours. There are CAB calls, which is like community calls. There's user calls specific only to the end users that kind of come together online every month to discuss all those things.
So Swarna, it was once again great talking to you, and I actually look forward to talking to you again soon. But before we wrap up, any closing thought that you have for your community members?
Well, all I say is, if you're not part of the community already, come join the community. And if you are, thank you for being here. I think the key philosophy of Cloud Foundry community is to be kind, to be open, and every human being here truly embodies that principle, and I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for being here at Summit this time again.